Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about the Genesis format, a brand new, exciting format for people who want to, play Yu-Gi-Oh, but, you know, I guess explore a little bit more of the deck building side of the game. I think this is a very unexplored format with a lot of very cool decks, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 decks that I think are just really cool and interesting and something that I'm personally going to be buying and excited to play. This video is sponsored by thebestpaste.com. If you guys are interested in getting insane hair product and the best paste literally for your hair, then definitely go check it out at thebestpaste.com. You can actually refer to the site right here where they have a current Yu-Gi-Oh collection and slash Yu-Gi-Oh collab at the moment. So if you're trying to have like those Yugi Muto hair, the Seto Kaiba hair, then definitely go check this out and use pack 10 for 10% off. They have every different type of hold. They have the matte hold, the low shine, the natural shine, firm or, various forms of like holds for every different type of hair basically. So whatever fits the best for you, you can definitely try it out and let me know. I think the best paste is sick. I'm definitely going to be using this myself and, trying to style my hair a little bit. But as you can see, I'm going to be having a hat on at the moment just because my hair isn't too great at the moment. I got to go get a haircut, but yeah, definitely go check this out, guys. Use pack 10 for 10% off. And yeah, let's get your hair moving on, right? So now let's jump into the deck portion of the video. So the first deck I wanted to talk a little bit more about was the VS-K9 deck. This VS deck is actually kind of still super broken. It has XX to 3 extravagance, can play 3 Staker Soul. It does using 100 points. I decided to use most of my points on like Ash Blossom. I think Ash Blossom is like a very good hand trap since not many decks are like, they're going to be like a lot more lower powered in this type of format. So I think the VS deck is really good. And you can see that pretty much this deck is essentially full power. I don't have any of the K9 cards here except like Lupus. I think Lupus is like broken because it's a free level 5 extender where if your opponent interacts with you, you can summon from the hand. I don't really think the K9s are good because I don't expect many hand traps in the format. So I figured that, like, you don't really need too many, but it's a good 5 points. It's an Earth monster, helps it meet your Earth attribute. But with the build that I have right now, the reason why I think this deck is a good pick is because a lot of decks just kind of fold to the Shifter, right? There's, various forms of decks, but Shifter is still like a crazy flood that you can play as a hand trap. And even if it's not good, it's still going to be a good attribute for the deck in of itself. What I really like about this version over like the K9 version is the fact that you have cards like triple Heavy Burger, every Heavy Borger, and then triple Caesar Valius. These cards are absolutely amazing because Burger will essentially get you a lot of card advantage to outgrind your opponent. And as it gets to like closer to like the mid game, you can just start using the effect to burn once you have enough card advantage. And then Caesar is just a really big threat in this type of format, right? Like imagine a lower power format where this type of card is just really hard out. It can either become unaffected or non-target destroy a card on the field. So your opponent's just gonna have a hard time dealing with this card, and especially if you play 3 and 3, which I believe you have to do because of the fact that there's no rock to add these cards back. So once you lose them forever. That's why I added another target for Mad Love, like a Vanquish Soul Continue, just to give yourself a little bit of a grind game. This card is really good because you can add back attributes that you're missing in grind games sometimes, which I really think this card is good for. Or you can summon back like a Vanquish monster. Another change about the list that I thought would be cool in this deck would be a card like Panthera, which is a card we don't really see being played in the TCG, but in Genesis, like back removal type cards in the main deck could be kind of nice, right? So in the side deck, I'm still working on it. I think the side is kind of hard to do because there's so many different decks. You don't really know what you want yet. So I think the side deck you can kind of ignore. Some rank 4s that you might have missed that you might have not considered is going to be cards like Tornado Dragon, which is free. You have cards like Giant Hand, which is basically a negate that's essentially free. And I don't really mind overlaying with these level 4 monsters because of cards that continue so that you can recycle back your card advantage. Cards like Rhapsody of the Berserk, I think is really broken because it's able to like DD Crow your opponent's grave. You have Nash Knight, you have like Sea Nash, just like because you have a bunch of like level 5 monsters, like you can really extend with them into like a card to like push for game or like push damage is really good. I like Umbral Horror a lot because it's a way to deal with back row. So like you can go Nash Knight into Sea Nash into Umbral, and Umbral can like pop a back row. Like I said, having an in-engine way to remove back row in this format is actually quite strong. So this is pretty much going to be like the first deck that I think is a template just for you to kind of get things moving if you guys want to like look at that. The next deck is actually going to be oops, the next deck is going to be the, let me pull it up for you guys, the Odeon deck. So obviously the Odeon deck just recently won the YCS. So I figured, why not take a look at an Odeon deck. This is one of the Odeon decks that I think did really well in one of Farfa's tournament that was just recently hosted. And I looked at this and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, this is a pretty well thought out list. I really like a lot of the cards that they're maining. A lot of these trap cards are hand traps, but they're also traps to meet the requirement for the Treasures of the King, right? So like playing able to play songs is really good because you don't really have monster effects in the hand. And the songs work really well in order to search cards like Purge, which is essentially just a free Ash Blossom if you really think about it. So I really like the fact that there's songs on Purge in this deck, which are like still like hand traps essentially. And then I also like the fact that you're playing there's cards like Super Paul in the deck, right? Which is super broken. It's only 10 points in terms of a non-engine, and it's able to like remove stuff from your opponent, right? Which I think is pretty strong. And the cards you're making with Super Paul are gonna be cards like Garua, but you can use the Garua to overlay with like a circuit, for example, to make like rank 6 plays, which I think is also pretty neat. Like some cards are like Lars, some cards like Platotomy, some cards like Wallow, right? So I think that's gonna be really strong. And then you also have like these Apophis monsters are 6s as well. What's really cool about this deck is that this deck has a really strong grind game, right? Cards like Anubis, the Last Judge, allows you to recycle these traps for an infinite grind game almost, and it's gonna be kind of hard to deal with once this deck gets engine rolling. It's gonna be very very hard to deal with. So another cool tech card that I saw in this list that I thought was interesting was the Sudden Thunder Swamp, a card I haven't really seen before, but basically what it does is it allows you to discard a card to set a continuous trap from your deck or graveyard with an effect that special summons itself, right? So this card is really good because once you draw it, you get it in rotation. You can basically like keep setting the traps, which is nice because it lets you search like Statue of the Anguish pattern. Or you can also search like your Apophis traps, right? So I think that's like really neat. I think this deck is definitely very interesting, and if people aren't prepared with a back row removal to deal with this deck, it can definitely stun your opponent out. And yeah, basically it's basically free Omni Gaze if you really think about it with these monsters. And like I said, you can easily overlay with them. And get rid of them. I think cards like Giant Hand definitely should be considered to be played, but obviously Reader is one of the best cards because overlaying with these trap monsters allows Reader to have like an extra interruption, which is super super broken. And yeah, but overall I think this list is really interesting and something that I would definitely consider. The next one is gonna be Lunalight, guys. I don't know how, but Lunalight, which is definitely a top TCG deck right now, also evaded basically this list, right? I don't know how. Leo Dancer, none of the Lunalight cards are hit, and this deck is really annoying because essentially it makes it so that people will, if people start realizing the deck is popular, they're gonna need to side Kaijus and Lava Golems to respect this deck because it essentially just puts up Leo Dancer. One thing that I noticed that what makes this deck really strong is the fact that heavily polymerization is not once per turn and it's free. It's 0 points, guys, and this card going second into most of the boards allows you to pretty much put up Liger Dancer majority of the time. And if you summon Liger, you should pretty much just win, which is insane. So I think that card is just absurd in my opinion. And then of course, like one thing I noticed about the deck that's really neat is that the Foolish Bear Goods is only 9 points. And for 9 points, all you have to do is play a Black Goat. But then this card can also become Engine because you can send Perfume Dance. I'm sorry, you can play Lunalight Perfume. Or you can send Serenade Dance to summon a Lunalight monster from the deck. So Foolish Burial Goods being only a 3-point card, absolutely disgusting. Dark Ruler is free in this deck. And you don't really care if you Dark Ruler the opponent's board because then you just put up Liger and then you just win the game. Cards like Allure of Darkness I think is really cool because you can it makes your deck more consistent. Because there's no link monsters. So this Allure makes your deck more consistent. And it has synergy with Kaleido Chick. Because if you Allure banish a Kaleido Chick, you can trigger Kaleido Chick in order to make it so your opponent cannot activate cards or effects during the battle phase. So if you were to go battle, even if you don't summon Liger, you can summon cards like Leo Dancer. Just go battle. Your opponent can't use anything. And then you just basically OTK them. Which is really, really nice. And then yeah, so I think that's really good. And then of course I have more breakers in this deck because I think breakers are like the best way to pair with like the Lunalight engine. So I have cards like Forbidden Droplets, which is only a 10 drop. This deck has synergy with the Forbidden Droplets because there's a lot of cards you can send to get value. The fact that you're playing Black Goat I think is really good because it makes Foolish Bear both a starter and a breaker in this type of deck. And then of course like even Eclipse is really good because if you can buy one turn and like survive and get to the next turn, I think you're in a good spot. Some other notable cards like Dugaris, which allows you to summon back Kaleido Chick so you can dump multiple Leo Dancers to the graveyard to put up Liger, is only a 10 drop as well. So that allows you to like basically establish like a win condition for your deck. Like it's a very good extra deck card for your win condition, which is Liger, which I think is insane. That's why I think this deck is very good. And you'll notice a trend with a lot of these decks is that most of these decks, guys, are 0-point archetypes. And what I mean by 0-point archetypes is that, like, these decks, guys, have no cost to them. Like, they are free. Look at this. 3 Fractal, 3 Golio, 3 Chick, like, you know, Heavy Poly, like, Lunalight Perfume. All these cards, guys, cost 0 points, which means that these type of decks have an inherent advantage to other decks that you could play because they're able to play non-engine. And that is the big part of what I think makes a deck good in Genesis, right? Like you could play like a 100-point card, but if you do that, your deck is just like a significantly weaker because you don't have non-engine to back up your deck. Like, yeah, your deck can go first, but what about going second, right? And I think that's going to be like the key here about Genesis, that you have to capitalize on engine decks that do not have any point requirements. And speaking of decks that do not have any point requirement, we're going to be talking about the Gem Knight deck. The Gem Knight deck, guys, is completely free. 0 points except for Brilliant Fusion being 33 point. And this is honestly one of my favorite decks that I'm probably going to be playing myself for the Genesis side of it. I think this is going to be a deck that I'm going to personally play. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as I'm going to get the cards in person and then probably do a real-life deck profile with you guys. Maybe I'll make some small adjustments, but basically, this deck is a go second deck, but it has the capability to also go first. I play all the shufflers because it works really well with Orange Light. Orange Light is a free hand trap that pairs really well with fairy monsters, and this deck already has a bunch of fairies like Nephrom and Quartz, right? Kaldo and Medora is really good because Kaldo can pitch a Quartz or a Medora, right? Because you can pitch any Earth Fairy to summon it from the hand and add like another Medora, or even a copy of itself. And why that's so powerful is it allows you to get access to rank 4s. So you can end on Giant Hand, you can end on Tornado Dragon, right? Like even against Luna, like you can end on Tornado Dragon to like pop their Masquerade. You can end on Giant Hand, which is a negate. Like you basically have a rank 4 negate. Like that's a lot. That's like insane. Shaddoll Fusion is really strong because it has a lot of synergy with the deck. If you already have access to your Gem Knight cards, you can actually Shaddoll Fusion, send Eva, for example, banish fairies from your graveyard, light fairies from your graveyard, and then search Orange Light to contest the board. And then obviously you can send a card like Shaddoll Beast, Eva, then you make Construct, send Dragon, pop a back roll. This deck is definitely very, very strong. And even if you're made to go first and people know about the deck, you can still end on a board to not die. Cards like, I think, Giant Hand helps you get there. The Shufflers makes it so that if you're playing a graveyard-reliant deck, like let's say you're playing against Lunite, the Shuffler's so broken because they just cannot establish the Liger because you're going to use the Shufflers to contest like all the stuff that would allow them to make the Liger with the Masquerade. So, and the deck has a lot of hand traps. So even if you go first, you have 3 Droll and Lockbird, right, to stop like powerful decks like to set up the board. You have 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Orange Light, right? So you still have 9 hand traps, and then you can sign to like Crow and Meister to like help you with other matchups. But the side deck, like I said, is like you can kind of ignore. The format's still pretty wide, so I'm still not really sure exactly what I want to do. But yeah, that's just something to consider. And the last one, which is a deck that I saw top the Farfa tournament, which is a deck that I actually want to buy and pick up, actually, and then maybe even play for you guys. It's a deck that I thought was interesting, which is the Archmage deck. The Archmage deck, which, you know, has seen some play in the TCG, was kind of, you know, ignored because it wasn't necessarily, like, how do I explain it? It's definitely not the most meta deck, but in a format like Genesis, this deck is going to see some shine. Why? Because it is a 0 cost engine deck. Like, look at this, guys. The engine for Archmage is entirely free, and that's really, really broken in my opinion, because you can basically do whatever you want, right? So I'm sure the list can change around a little bit. The non-engine can change around a little bit. Like, for example, I don't think I like Fua. But I think like the core of the engine itself I like, but I think there's some changes you can make with like the non-engine, like the Fua rolls. I don't think it's good in this type of format. Like, you know, saying like I think Joe is solid. I think Super Poly is solid. I think Slayer's nice. I think Cosmic's nice. But I think the Fuas maybe could change or be adjusted for a little bit, because if you take the 21 points there, you'll have 25 points. Or I think you have like around 25 points. Yeah, 25 points remaining, because you have 4 remaining. You take some of this, and then maybe you can replace it with something else. Not sure exactly what yet, but definitely think this deck is very interesting. And I definitely want to explore this deck a little bit more. But yeah, this is a very interesting deck that I was like, oh my god, like I said, guys, when these decks have free zero cost engine decks, I just think that they're naturally just gonna be very very good in my opinion. But like for example, I think like fusion deployment is really cool because not only does this has the potential to summon Cartesia, which allows you to access fusion monsters, it can also summon like Medius Superior because I believe the Archmage, yeah, Dactoris, that card says Medius Superior on it, which allows you to basically summon this from your deck for free, and this card basically allows you to special summon a power page from your deck, and you don't really care about getting fusion lock because guys, there's no links. Like what I'm saying, you're just gonna be doing fusion play, so I think that's pretty chill. And then yeah, I think this card is really really good because this card basically teleports out any monster from your deck. So but yeah, I think this deck is something that I definitely want to explore. Like it also has like an in-engine MST. It has an in-engine negate with female. It has like the fact to. I think it can. I think there's a one that like special summons and draws a card. I think if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this one female, which is broken. Like summon from the hand, draw a card. And then you also have like Litera, which allows you to add back Archmage card from the graveyard. So it's definitely a very good deck, very good grindy deck, very strong deck in general that I think has a lot of potential to do well in this type of format. So those are my top 5 decks that I think are like the best decks for Genesis, and I'm definitely looking to see more results, more deck profiles from people who play the Genesis event this weekend at YCS Anaheim and what they have to say about what they think. But overall, I think this is out of all the decks, I think Gem Knights and Archmage are going to be the 2 decks that I'm just going to buy the cards for Genesis because I really like this archetype. I'm a fan of fusion decks. So Archmage is something that definitely appeals to me and something I want to explore a little bit more. So if you guys want to see that, definitely let me know. And yeah, I'll see you guys at YCS Anaheim this weekend. And yeah, say hi if you guys are in the if you guys see me. So looking forward to meeting you guys at the YCS and best of luck with either Genesis or the main event, whatever you choose to play. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.